Hello to everyone, and welcome to the Living Your Best Life webinar series presented by the Huntsman World Senior Games. My name is Kyle Case, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the Huntsman World Senior Games. And this is a webinar series that we have launched that gives you expert information and a lot of topics that are going to really help you live your best life. At least that's our goal moving forward. We do want to give a shout out to those who have joined us. We hope that you'll take just a second and in the chat box, you click on that chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Why don't you type in that chat box where you are joining us from? We've got participants that'll be joining us from all around the nation and possibly even around the world. And we'd like to know where you're coming from. So if you wouldn't mind taking a second and letting us know who you are and where you're coming from. We already have Lori, who is joining us from sunny St. George, which is of course where we are based here in the southwestern United States. And we're again just excited that you would join us, and we are covering a very important topic today, and I want to know where you're coming from. So don't be bashful. Take a moment and in that chat box, let us know where you're coming from. We've got Lisa from Springville. So welcome to Lisa. Thank you for joining us today. I know that you're interested in learning about Alzheimer's and all the things that we all need to know about this disease moving forward. Again, if you're just joining us, go ahead and drop where you are from in that chat box. We are going to jump to our expert presenter here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to cover one quick item, and that is this. We want this webinar to be yours. We want you to get what you want out of it. So if you have questions, please take just a moment and click on the Q&A button. Again, that is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, the Q&A button, and type your question in there. We're going to do our very best to get through as many questions as we possibly can in the time that we have. We plan to answer most of those questions at the end of the webinar, so don't be frustrated if we don't get right to it. We're going to hold those to the end and make sure that it's not already covered in the presentation. But when you have a question, if you think of a question throughout the presentation, click on that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and send that over to us. We want to say hi to another listener who has joined us from St. George. We've got Portland, Oregon represented as well. So if you are just joining us, go ahead and drop in the chat box where you're coming from. We want to give you a shout out. Today, as you know, we're going to talk about Alzheimer's disease. And I'm just curious to know what you're most interested in knowing. So on your screen, we've got a poll that's popped up there. And we're curious if you have a main motivation in participating in today's webinar. So take a second and just click on if you have a family member with Alzheimer's, if you know someone who has passed away from Alzheimer's, or if you just like to learn more about the symptoms, take just a moment and hit the answer, or even if there's something else, another reason why you've logged in, joined us today, and what you're most interested in knowing about Alzheimer's disease. I'll tell you, I'll go ahead and click. I have a family member that was affected with Alzheimer's, so it's very personal to me as well. And so take a moment and pop your answers there on that poll. And then we'll have a chance most likely to answer and cover your questions or your answers. I feel like we're going to cover all of these things today. As it relates to Alzheimer's. So again, thank you for joining us, and we're going to move right into our expert presenter. Did you know, maybe you are aware of this, but there are 5 million people in the United States of America today that suffer from Alzheimer's. 5 million people that are currently living with Alzheimer's disease. And as that aging population increases, of course, we know that number is going to grow. Today, 1 in 10 people at age 65 suffer from Alzheimer's. And at age 85, it's 1 in 3. So it's a serious issue that affects so many of us, and at some point will affect all of us. So we did feel strongly about this and wanted to present this information to you. So our expert presenter, let me just say, let me also, before we get to Ronnie Daniel, who is our expert presenter, let me also say, if you happen to be joining us by Facebook and have a question, don't hesitate to drop your question in the Facebook comments as well, because we're going to do our best to try to get to all of those questions, or at least as many as we possibly can. So a number of you have answered the survey polls too. And before I introduce our presenter, let's just touch on that. 20% of you said you have a family member with Alzheimer's. 40% of you know someone who has passed away from Alzheimer's, and 40% said you would like to learn more about the symptoms of Alzheimer's. So once again, lots of interest and varying reasons why we're here, but we do want to learn more about this devastating disease and how it can affect us. So we're going to introduce our expert presenter right now. Ronnie Daniel is the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association of Utah and has been for the past 7 years. He has worked in the nonprofit field for 31 years and has brought his experience in that nonprofit arena to help fight this disease that is very personal to him as well. Welcome, Ronnie. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Kyle. I really appreciate you inviting me to come. In fact, I like to say I'm a fellow athlete, although my wife and I were going to participate last fall and unfortunately weren't able to. And so we're looking forward to the coming up games.
I'll tell you what, we heard about that, Ronnie, and we decided we would do it again this year so that you and your wife.
Good. Just so we could participate. That's awesome.
Come and participate with us. So that's wonderful. I'm curious, what sports were you looking at?
We were going to do some cycling and some swimming. So
awesome, yeah. Wonderful. Well, we're going to have the event this year, so perfect. Feel free to register and come and be a part of this amazing, wonderful event. Now, in your intro, I mentioned that this disease, this Alzheimer's disease, is very personal to you. What is it that's made this such a passionate cause that you're getting behind now?
Well, thanks for asking. 7 years ago, when I became the executive director for the Alzheimer's Association here in Utah, I didn't know that I had a family connection to this disease, but I also happened to be a family history buff. And so I was looking back through some genealogical records and found that my grandfather and his brother both in their obituaries said, in lieu of flowers, please make a donation to the local Alzheimer's Association. And so I went and asked my dad about it, and he said, oh yeah, both of them had Alzheimer's disease. And so it became personal to me, because now that I know what I know about Alzheimer's disease, and I remember what my grandfather was like and his brother, I can certainly see all of the characteristics that we know that come along with Alzheimer's disease. And so it's definitely personal to me. As I get older, my parents are both alive and well. They live down in the St. George area, and my dad's 83 and my mom's 81. And so that statistic about at age 85, 1 in 3 of people will have the disease, I'm really very concerned that one of them might be one of the 3, right? And so it's something I'm always concerned about.
Well, like I said in the intro, at some point we're all touched by this, whether it's directly through a family member, through a neighbor, through a friend. It's a big deal. And so we're excited to have you with us. And without any further ado, we're going to turn the time over to Ronnie Daniel, who is going to let us know all that we need to know about Alzheimer's.
Great. If you'll just give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen. Awesome. Good. So I appreciate Jeff inviting me to participate today. Kyle invited me to participate. This is a great topic. And usually when I get asked to talk about, a lot of people want to know about the details about Alzheimer's disease. But what I find when I dig a little deeper into what people really want to know, their biggest question is, how can I not get Alzheimer's disease? So that's why I kind of tweaked the presentation today to talk about what the latest research has shown about how we can reduce our risk for Alzheimer's disease and other dementia. So that's the name of the presentation today, is Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body. And so we're going to talk about that. The program's designed to offer you research-based recommendations about taking care of our brains and our bodies in order to age well, as well as possible as we get older. And definitely it provides some research about how we can reduce our risk for cognitive decline. So we'll talk about Alzheimer's and dementia throughout the program. And if we don't answer your question about Alzheimer's disease specifically, definitely put it in the Q&A, and we will talk about it at the end of the program today. So, and also, you can also contact the Alzheimer's Association in your local area and get more details about that. And I'll share information about how to contact the Alzheimer's Association at the end of the presentation as well. So by the end of today's program, we hope that you'll be able to understand the heart-brain connection, because it's so important. Identify the reasons for taking care of yourself as you age, which I know as athletes that are participating, you understand the importance there. We'll also be able to list strategies to help you age well in the following areas: cognitive activity, physical health and exercise, diet and nutrition, social engagement. And my hope is that as we talk about these various things, you'll maybe learn some new ideas, or some ideas will be kind of spring up in your mind. And I definitely encourage you to write those down, because this will be part of how you can create your own plan for healthy aging, both with your body and your brain. So I hope you'll take some notes, and definitely if we want to go into more details, again, ask those questions in the Q&A, and we'll hit those at the end of the presentation. So I want to start by talking about the factors that contribute to how human beings age. There are some ways that we age that we all have in common, and many of these other areas are outside of our control. But as older adults, for example, our hair typically turns gray, our skin wrinkles, and our eyes tend to focus less effectively while we're reading. As individuals, though, we each age at different rates. And how this takes place depends in part upon our genes, and we are all genetically predisposed to age in a certain way. For example, some families tend to live a long time, aging well into their 90s or even longer, and other families tend to develop diseases that might limit their lifespan. And these things are beyond our control. However, there are some aspects of aging over which we do have some degree of control. And these aspects include lifestyle or environmental factors associated with how we age. Even in families with genetic predispositions towards particular conditions, by implementing lifestyle and environmental interventions, you may be able to alter the course of those conditions significantly. So the big key is that we can start by adopting habits to potentially improve our overall health. And these habits will help keep our bodies and our brains healthy as we age. So let's talk a bit about now how the brain works. The brain controls all of our bodily functions, including thought and movement. It's the control center for our entire body. If you think about it, there are approximately 100 billion nerve cells called neurons that are in our brains. And they're structured like branches of a tree and create a network of pathways through which electrochemical signals are sent to form thoughts, feelings, and memories. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive disease that destroys brain cells as it moves through the brain. It affects more and more functions as it progresses. We have known for years that the body and the brain are connected, and what's good for the body generally is also good for the brain. Now, science is able to tell us why this is true and what we can do to maximize our health. Much of the brain-body connection is due to the fact that the brain is nourished by the blood's richest network of blood vessels. Oxygen and other elements are delivered to the brain through the bloodstream, keeping our brain nourished. If you think about it, every time your heart beats, 25% of the blood being moved goes to your brain. So this is why keeping your body in good working order helps keep the brain fueled to do its work. There are many benefits from aging, as you all know. If you ask someone who's in their 50s or 60s in my age grade, you may hear talk about increased feelings of comfort with who we are, and we're less concerned about the opinions or criticisms of others. Those that might be in their 70s or 80s will talk about the wisdom that comes with life experience and their appreciation for that perspective. So as we age, there are changes that take place in our bodies and in our brains. Many of these are expected as typical age-related changes, such as the decline in the way our brain processes information. In addition, however, there are some diseases that are more common as we age, and some of these impact our brain function. Alzheimer's disease and other dementias result when the brain is compromised in some way. Currently, there are no proven methods to prevent, cure, or even slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease. There are habits, though, that we can implement to maintain or potentially improve overall health as we age. Much research has been done, and that's what I'm going to share with you today, is a lot of the research that's been done on these particular habits that will reduce our risk for cognitive decline and keep our bodies and our brains healthy, and even perhaps reduce our risk for Alzheimer's and other dementia. So although this program isn't specifically going to dive into the details about Alzheimer's disease, it's helpful to know some basics about Alzheimer's disease and dementia, so that we can understand how, as we implement these lifestyle factors, they can make a difference. So, and I noticed this question was actually asked in the chat before we got started. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? So dementia, if you think about it, is an umbrella term, and it's a general term that is caused by many different diseases, many with different symptoms. The symptoms of all of these diseases have one thing in common, that they compromise the way the brain works and cause a decline in memory or other brain functions that are noticeable enough to affect your everyday life. So although dementia and all of the diseases under this umbrella term are associated with aging, they're not a normal part of aging. If they were, everyone would develop them as they age, and we know that that's just not the case. Now, Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. It's the most common form, and it accounts for about 60 to 80% of all dementia cases. Some of the risks for Alzheimer's disease specifically are first and foremost age. As was mentioned in the beginning by Kyle, as we age, our risk for the disease increases from 1 to 10 at age 65 to 1 in 3 people at age 85. There are some therapies that have been developed to help treat the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, and these are effective in some people for a limited period, but they do not do anything to impact the underlying cause of the disease, nor slow the progression of the disease. Now, the Alzheimer's Association offers many programs and resources that help people living with the disease and caregivers, and also all other types of dementia. So you can learn more about these programs and resources by visiting our website at alz.org, and I'll have that website up on the screen at the end as well, so you can find it. But if you've got more specific questions about Alzheimer's disease and it's the way we can impact behaviors and things like that, we can address some of them in the Q&A, but a great resource is to go to alz.org and get more information there. So let's start by looking at our healthy lifestyle issues. We're going to talk about 4 different areas. As I mentioned, physical health and exercise, diet and nutrition, cognitive activity, and social engagement. We'll look at the most current research that tells us about changes that we can make in each of these areas that can help our bodies and our brains age as well as possible. So as we touch on each area, think about how you can apply this research to your own life, and consider, doing things that you enjoy, making gradual changes, and above all else, if you're not doing some of these things, start now, regardless of your age, because regardless of when you start, they will have a positive benefit. So whenever possible, as you think about these changes that affect more than one area, try to find ways to combine them together to maximize the health benefits. So I encourage you to take notes about these different areas we discussed and write down those items that you think would make most sense for you. We'll start by talking about the area of physical exercise and health. This is probably the area for you as athletes that participate in the Huntsman Games are most familiar with. And so I'm probably not going to tell you a lot of things you don't already know, but there is a lot of research being done today throughout the United States and throughout the world in the area of how physical activity affects your brain health. Many studies indicate that engaging in physical activities is associated with a lower risk of cognitive decline. So many researchers say that if people had to choose one thing to improve their overall brain functioning, it should be exercise. Some evidence suggests that exercise may directly benefit brain cells by increasing the blood and oxygen flow, and by reducing other dementia risk factors such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol. However, there's no single recipe for what may work best. Most researchers believe that exercise should be a regular and on the more vigorous side, but other studies have shown that there are benefits from just mild activities such as walking. So we're going to show just a short video segment here that will describe how this individual, Woodley, developed a new habit of exercise. So I will just start that, and then we'll talk about it at the end.
It's surprising how you can easily build up habits of just taking 15 to 20 minutes out of your day to go down, hit the treadmill, and just do it. Just do it. Just get on it, put my headphones on, and just walk at a nice brisk pace for myself, build up a quick heartbeat, quick sweat. And it's amazing how quickly I can go from 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and then over time 30 minutes, and over time 40 minutes. Before you know it, you're up to 45 minutes of walking, and even at a higher incline and also at a higher pace. And again, it's all about incorporating habits in the choices that we make.
So as Woodley said there, developing a new habit can happen surprisingly quickly. Progress comes with choosing to stick with a new behavior and creating an exercise habit that can begin with just 10 to 15 minutes of activity today, and then building up as you are able to do that. So one of the most important recommendations is to be as active as you can and to incorporate activity that you enjoy so that you'll continue to engage in it. So if this type of activity is new for you, it's important to start out small. Maybe it's just a walk around your neighborhood or a few times a week, or taking the stairs more often, or even something as simple as parking your car further away from the grocery store. These little changes add up, and the research shows that just 20 to 30 minutes of walking a few times a week can have some very positive health benefits. As you participate in cardiovascular activity regularly, this increases the blood flow to your brain from the heart, and it provides additional nourishment. Research has shown that for most people, any additional movement is a positive change that can have an overall positive impact on your health. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have developed some recommendations and some guidelines for physical activity, and their website's there at the bottom of the screen if you want to get more details about their recommendations. But some of the things that they highlight are to do something that you enjoy. Making sure, as we've talked about, starting out small, move safely to prevent injury. So wearing a helmet when you bike, or protecting yourselves against other types of head injury, and wearing other protective gear as necessary. Do something that you can do with other people. Make it social, because that's another positive benefit for your brain as well. And then you get support by continuing with your tuning with friends. And then consider physical activities that may also be mentally or socially engaging, such as taking a dance class, or joining an exercise group, or maybe engaging in a challenging sport such as golf or playing tennis. Those are all good ways to make this enjoyable, but also get the positive health benefits out of it as well. And then certainly, we definitely want to make sure you check with your doctor before beginning any new exercise program, just to make sure that you won't injure yourself, or it won't be problematic for you to move into that area. And finally, just remember that it's never too late or too early to start. No matter when you start, your brain and your body will still reap the benefits from that. Now, studies have found that smoking increases the risk of cognitive decline, and may increase the risk of dementia. Additional benefits of stopping smoking including lowering your risk of heart attacks, stroke, and lung disease, and also creates better blood circulation. It also helps you avoid exposing other people to secondhand smoke. Alcohol has many effects. Although a glass or two of red wine is commonly thought to have positive health benefits, you should not start drinking if you don't already, just to get those benefits from wine. Also, excessive drinking of alcohol has some serious negative consequences, including, certainly slowed or impaired communication among brain cells, fuzzy memory and drowsiness, long-term changes in your balance, memory, emotion, coordination, and body temperature. And it can be a big contributor to falls and falls-related injuries in older adults. And also, it can react negatively with many medications, leading to more potentially dangerous or even life-threatening consequences. Another great thing to remember is to get enough sleep. Inadequate sleep due to conditions like insomnia or sleep apnea can cause problems with your memory or thinking, and can potentially lead towards cognitive decline and dementia. It's also important to remember to avoid injuring your head, as we've talked about. Head injuries and falls can contribute to physical and cognitive difficulties. And be sure to wear a helmet when you're cycling, when you're playing sports that could involve a head injury. We know that a traumatic brain injury is another significant risk factor for dementia. Studies have found also that regular activity decreases your stress. It increases your ability to manage your stress and leads to better overall mood. As you monitor your level of stress, take action to minimize it and seek professional assistance to address anxiety, depression, or other mental health concerns. Be sure that you have all the information from your doctors about the medications that you take, and have them reviewed by your primary care doctor once a year. I'll just share a quick reason why that's so important. I mentioned my mother is 81 years old, and she had some dental challenges she was dealing with, and in that same process had fallen and broken her arm. So she was taking pain medication prescribed by her dentist and pain medication prescribed by her doctor. And the two didn't know that they had both prescribed those medications. And my mom was taking both of these pain medications. And it was like talking to a zombie. She really just didn't know what was going on all day long. And so my sister and I intervened a little bit and made sure her doctor knew about both of these medications, and they were able to make some changes, and we got her mom back from that. But that's an example of why it's important to have your prescriptions reviewed regularly. Find a physician that you trust and visit them on a regular basis. Follow up on all their recommendations. This is one of the best things that you can do to maximize your health as you age. So there's also growing evidence that suggests many factors that increase the risk of heart disease and stroke may also increase the risk of dementia. These include high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and possibly high cholesterol. So although there is good research being done in these areas, more is needed. But here's what we know right now. Research has shown that an increase in the risk of cognitive decline and dementia among individuals with diabetes. So although diabetes has not been shown specifically to cause Alzheimer's disease, there is a relationship between those who have dementia and those who have diabetes and those who get dementia. Studies have also found that midlife obesity may be associated with increased risk of dementia. Research has been done on treatments to reduce midlife hypertension, and which suggests that they may also reduce cognitive decline as well. These studies have shown mixed results with the relationship between high cholesterol and levels of dementia, but we do know that good cholesterol level is good for the heart. And again, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. Now, speaking of hypertension and blood pressure, I wanted to share with you some local research, some current research that's actually happening here in the state of Utah, where I live, and is being incorporated in other universities around the country. But the lead investigator for this happens to be at the University of Utah, and this is called the SPRINT Mind Study. And it specifically focuses on the importance of blood pressure control. For many years, doctors have worked with patients to try to keep the systolic, or the top number of your blood pressure, at 140 or less. And this has been the standard. However, this new study called the SPRINT Mind Study took a look at the impact of keeping that systolic blood pressure at 120 or less. And the initial results have shown some incredible results that are impressive. The study has worked with over 9,000 individuals over the last 3 years, and they showed that study participants who were able to keep their blood pressure below 120 showed up to a 20% decrease in mild cognitive impairment, which is the first step towards Alzheimer's and other dementia. And the same results were shown in both participants who lowered their blood pressure through diet and exercise, as well as through medication. So the moral of the story is check your blood pressure regularly. If it's consistently above 120, work with your doctor to try to reduce that. Whether you do that through exercise or whether you do that through medical, through medication, the result is better than keeping your blood pressure higher than that. Research has also shown that these cardiovascular priorities contribute to the fact that African Americans are 2 times more likely, and Latinos are 1.5 times more likely to have Alzheimer's disease than their Caucasian counterparts. And so one of the key factors is blood pressure. The best way to combat these health concerns is to get your cardiovascular factors mentioned above tested regularly, and to work with your doctor to understand what they really mean for your overall health. So be aware of changes from previous levels and determine, what changes you might need to make in order to stay healthy. So hopefully all these things we've discussed under the physical health and exercise have spurred some ways for you that you might be able to make some adjustments or changes in your own life. So I encourage you to jot those things down and use that as the basis of creating some action steps for you at the end of our presentation today. So next area we're going to talk about is diet and nutrition. So we're going to now hear from Dr. Martha Claire Morris about talking about the diet and what's been shown to help people age in a healthy way. Dr. Morris is the director of the section of nutrition and epidemiology in the Department of Internal Medicine at Rush University. So here is Dr. Morris.
Foods that have been shown to lead to healthy aging would be fruits and vegetables, and in particular green leafy vegetables and berries, as well as limited intake of high-fat food items that you get through high-fat dairy and cheese and red meats, and also healthy vegetable oils. So this would be olive oil would be a good example, have been shown to reduce your risk of heart disease as well as dementia.
So as Dr. Morris mentioned, their science has shown that there are foods that can help you get to help you age more effectively. And those diets can help you reduce your risk for heart disease and may also be able to reduce your risk for dementia. So again, we know that healthy fueling of the body benefits your brain function. And there are many different options about what is the best way to eat to maximize our health. And research has been done in the area of relationship between diet and cognitive functioning, but it hasn't been as much as we need. There definitely needs to be more research done there, but the research that's been done points to 2 different particular diets. One is called the DASH diet, and DASH stands for the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, and the other is the Mediterranean diet. The DASH diet is a flexible and balanced eating plan. Studies show that the DASH diet lowers high blood pressure and improves levels of blood lipids, which are the fats in the bloodstream, the good fats, which may reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Because of the DASH diet is a healthy way of eating, it offers potential health benefits beyond simply lowering blood pressure. Also, it includes reducing the risk of osteoporosis, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. So there's a lot more research that's been done on the Mediterranean diet, and the Mediterranean diet incorporates the basic healthy eating along with other components that are characterized in the traditional cooking style of the countries bordering around the Mediterranean Sea. Research analysis of more than 1.5 million healthy adults has demonstrated that following the Mediterranean diet could reduce the risk of death from heart disease and cancer, and may also reduce the incidence of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. So it's never too late to adopt a heart-healthy diet. Studies show that making these changes even later in life can have benefits in your brain health. So for more information on the DASH diet or the Mediterranean diet, it's as simple as Googling either of those, and you can then from there learn more information about what each of the diets incorporate. So there are also some simple ways that we can adopt a healthy lifestyle that may benefit your body and brain. If you don't want to adopt a different menu like the DASH or the Mediterranean, these are things that you can do just generally to help incorporate that. And these are all things that are incorporated in the DASH and Mediterranean diet as well. And they include incorporating vegetables into your daily diet. Especially eating leafy green vegetables has been shown to have very positive health benefits. Eating a diet rich in fruits. Some studies indicate that certain fruits, such as berries, may be particularly healthy to brain health. Eating nuts, beans, and whole grains, eating lean meats, fish, and poultry. These foods contain, and then you should choose foods that contain polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which are found in nuts, fish oils, and vegetable oils. You want to aim for a diet that's low in saturated fats, and also definitely stay away from processed foods like deep fried foods and those that have excess sugar and salt. So I saw that there was one question in the chat about dietary supplements. So I just want to take a minute to talk about that. The healthy diet will definitely increase your intake of the important vitamins. In fact, most doctors suggest that eating a heart-healthy diet, by doing that, you will get most of the vitamins and other types of supplements that you need. There has been some research, however, that's shown that taking vitamin supplements such as vitamin E or vitamins E and C together, or vitamins B12 and folate may lower your risk of cognitive decline and possibly Alzheimer's disease. This research has resulted in some suggestions that taking dietary supplements will lower your risk. And there's just has not been enough research to show that that's exactly right and true. My advice would be to definitely talk to your doctor about that. Look at the type of diet you're eating on a regular basis to determine whether you're getting enough of those vitamins and other nutritional elements in your diet. Dietary supplements and nutraceuticals or medical foods are made for those individuals that have nutritional deficiencies, and they really are only to be used under the supervision of a physician. So you want to make sure you always look at the labels for these medical foods and supplements, and almost always they indicate that the claims that they're making cannot be substantiated by research. And so for that reason, that's why most of them are not approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA. And many of these are created with little or no regulation and may potentially be dangerous. So my advice is to beware of false claims. And I know I heard this when I was a kid, and I'm sure you all did as well. If it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So with all types of supplements, it's important to keep in mind that they are you don't take them without a potential risk. Some of them are made from chemicals that may interact with other medications you're taking in a negative way. It may upset the way that your body works naturally. So although they often cite research to back up their beneficial claims, the research most often has not been held to the same rigorous standards required for medications by the FDA. Even with emerging research to back up the claims, it sometimes can be difficult to understand what research really means for you in your particular circumstances. So when getting information about a supplement or a vitamin, it's really important to check with a reputable source of information about what research has been done. And certainly definitely take that to your doctor and talk to him or her about that before you begin taking supplements. You definitely go back to what we talked about before. Working with a trusted doctor who understands your physical issues is really important. He or she can provide you the best advice on medications and vitamins and dietary supplements and how they'll interact with your body and the circumstances that you're living with. It's important to change any changes in medication with your doctor as well. So hopefully these things we've discussed under diet and nutrition have opened up some ideas on changes you can make within this important factor in your overall brain health. So definitely I hope you've taken down some notes, and we'll make that part of your overall plan that you'll put together. So next, we're going to move into the area of cognitive activity. So cognitive activity is a term that we use that is just definitely keeping track of how active our minds are. Anything that uses your mind in a challenging way is a cognitive activity and can possibly have short and long-term benefits for your brain. As you use your mind in new and challenging ways, your brain actually begins to form and nourish new neural pathways for connections between your brain cells. The more pathways you have, the more nimble your brain is, and the better able you are to guard against the effects of injuries and disease that may compromise your brain functioning. Studies have been done that show that some people engaged in cognitive activity by playing games or reading material that was challenging for them. Those who kept their brain active in these ways could recall information that was recently learned and remember it much later and to a greater degree than those who didn't participate in those same kinds of mind-stimulating activities. However, we don't know all the reasons why staying cognitively engaged may be beneficial, and more research is happening every day to help further explore these questions. Research has shown that engaging in formal education, which is maybe defined better as classroom-based learning, administered by a professionally trained teacher in any stage of your life, will help to keep your brain healthy and can protect your brain from developing dementia. Some researchers believe that this may be due to education, creating more robust network of communication pathways between neurons in your brain. Others believe that the difference has more to do with education levels being related to socioeconomic factors, which are correlated with the risk of disease and general access to medical care. But regardless of the reason why, definitely there is a benefit from formal education. So even now, regardless of what your age is, go to community education courses, go to opportunities to learn more things that will have a positive benefit on your overall brain health. We're going to watch another short video segment by Dr. David Bennett, who will talk about this area of cognitive activity.
One of the most interesting factors is cognitive stimulating activities, which basically for us just means mental processing of information. It can be from a book, it can be from the radio, it can be a magazine, it can be from a lecture, it can actually be from watching TV. All of these things require processing information. And the old adage of, use it or lose it is actually something that turns out, at least from the observational data, to look like it's true. So numerous studies now have shown that being more engaged in cognitively stimulating activities is actually good for maintaining cognition. And it's true in late life, and it's true in early life. And so what we recommend is that you start early, and if you're already late, start now.
So how can we exercise our brain and keep it more active? So you can see some of the ideas on the slide include building a piece of furniture, trying a new cooking technique, or creating something artistic. Reading books and articles that challenge and inspire you. Definitely focusing on topics of interest that provide you with new learning or add to what you may already know. Completing puzzles and games that are challenging for you is another way that you can do this. And this goes beyond just jigsaw puzzles or crossword puzzles that you might find fairly easy to do. Here we're talking about solving a problem that has you stumped, or figuring out what ways to approach a familiar task in a more effective way. This requires that you think ahead, steps ahead, and make plans for adapting to changes that an opponent may make, like in a game of chess or bridge. Definitely learning new skills or hobbies is a great way to strengthen your cognitive activity. Engage in ongoing learning, seek opportunities for more formal education, as we talked about earlier. Join a club that's focused on a common interest. This has a double benefit. It's not only helping you learn new things, but it's keeping you engaged socially as well. So while brain training activities such as computer games that aim to improve memory and attention span are an exciting area of research, none of these activities are proven buffers from Alzheimer's disease. So be cautious of the commercially marketed brain games with big claims and promises. One of the best ways to stretch your mind and help your brain to be as resilient as possible is to consistently engage in activities that involve learning new things and solving problems. Be sure to choose activities that you enjoy to increase the likelihood that you'll continue to do them over time. So these things that we've talked about here in cognitive activity, I hope you've jotted some things down that you can add to your personal plan. Now, finally, we're going to move into the area of social engagement. This is the area that we have the least amount of research in. However, there is some research that indicates that connecting with others socially may benefit brain health and may actually delay the onset of dementia. So those who are engaged with other people also tend to have reduced rates of mortality and disability, as well as lower rates of stress and depression. Researchers aren't sure why, or if social networks may help keep the brain more resilient against Alzheimer's disease. But some say that the traits that enable people to build and maintain friendships act as a buffer against cognitive impairment. Because if you think about it, if you're out meeting new people, you're building new neural pathways as you're trying to remember their names and the facts of their lives, that helps build those neural pathways. But regardless of the reason, we know that people don't do well in isolation. When people are feeling good about their social networks, they tend to make healthier choices in their lives. So there are a variety of ways of connecting to others and reaping the physical benefits of social interaction. As we've talked about, engaging in different sporting activities or other physical activities would be a great way to do that. You can also engage in activities that combines areas of healthy aging, taking a walk with a friend or helping to tutor young adults in the community, or maybe even volunteer for an organization in the community. Staying socially active may be important in maintaining your overall health. You can engage with others without any kind of financial cost. When you can, choose social activities that have cognitive or physical components as well, so that you can enhance and get benefits from your overall, all those activity areas. So some suggestions are listed there on the screen. I won't go through all of them, but they're all great ways to get engaged in social events, and definitely don't want to lose the opportunity to suggest volunteering for organizations, like the Alzheimer's Association or the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or many other hundreds of activities in your community. So while we didn't talk about as much content in the social engagement area, I hope that we've given you some ideas that you can jot down and add to your own personal plan. So let's put all four of these things together. Each of these four components we've explored has potential benefits for physical and cognitive health. Recent research, however, suggests that by combining activities in all four of these areas may have the greatest benefit for maintaining or improving brain health. So in this video, Dr. Bill Thies, who is the former Chief Medical Officer of the Alzheimer's Association, talks about a recent study that's making a difference in what scientists are able to tell us about healthy aging. We unfortunately lost Dr. Thies in 2020, and his wisdom and research and insight will be missed. But here's a video he did last year.
Recently, at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, there was a study reported of the results of a large clinical trial that was done in the Scandinavian countries. And in this trial, they took half the people in the trial and they adjusted their exercise level, their diet, their social engagement, and their mental stimulation. They developed programs for each one of those variables, changed all of those for the people that were in the test group, and the control group just lived as they had been. There is a tremendous benefit to doing studies where we make changes and observe after the fact. That's a much stronger study than just observing people and trying to make judgments after life has changed for them. To my mind, one of the things that this has done is it's changed the force of recommendation that we might make around the benefit of these interventions for prevention of Alzheimer's disease or for brain health. And the fact is that I think it's moved it from possibly exercise, diet adjustments, social engagement, mental stimulation are useful to probably. And that's a big change and makes it easier for people to make those kinds of adjustments for the benefit of their future health.
So as Dr. Thies talked about these combined efforts, I'm excited to let you know about some current research that is actually being supported with and from funds from the Alzheimer's Association, called the U.S. Pointer Study. So as was mentioned, he talked about interventive studies that look at a group of people who implement all of these factors combined compared to another group. And so the Alzheimer's Association is sponsoring a study that's being held at with over 2,000 participants in 5 different geographical locations throughout the United States, looking at physical exercise, nutrition, and cognitive and social stimulation, improved health management status like the blood pressure and sleep and other things like that, so that we can move this from, as Dr. Thie said, from a possibly to a probably to a for sure thing, that these are health risk preventative ways that we can improve our brain health and reduce our risk for Alzheimer's disease. So I look forward to seeing the results over the next 2 years from this research study, that we might be able to say that a lot of things we've talked about today that may help or could help, we'll be able to say, here's a definite thing that you can do to reduce your risk. So bottom line, what can you do today? So definitely taking a holistic approach to wellness as you age. Consider your health across many components, including physical, intellectual, social, spiritual, emotional, and vocational areas of your life, and make simple changes that will have a cumulative effect, helping you live as healthy as possible. It's important to begin today. It's not too late to start living in a more healthy way. Start small and build. Do what you enjoy. Do something that you can manage in the time that you have available now. Definitely doing things that are exercise, eating a nutritious diet, reducing your stress, make a plan. So hopefully the notes you've taken today will help you develop your own personal plan so that you can create some suggestions and recommendations for yourself. And that include other people. Get help from your family and friends and engage them in the activity that you're doing, and make it more fun and exciting. And that'll be the most effective thing you can do. Just want to put in another note here about being a savvy consumer. There are a lot of things out on the market. Some of them are good. Many of them are too good to be true. So make sure that you look at reputable sources, talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist. You can even go to our website at alz.org/research, and many of these pharmaceuticals, many of these nutritional items are listed there with some information about them. So take that opportunity to keep yourself safe when you're looking and being bombarded with all these things that are out there that might be able to help you. And then finally, just want to give some information about the Alzheimer's Association. Our website is alz.org. If you click on alz.org/find us, you can find support groups, education programs, and other things that are available in your community anywhere across the United States. We have great training, online training that you can do. And by just hitting training.alz.org, you can find these free online education programs. And then finally, just want to put a pitch in for our 24/7 helpline that's available all day, every day, free of charge. So if you have a simple question about Alzheimer's disease or a complex question, our helpline is manned 24/7 by master's level clinicians that can help you and give you the answers that you need. And then you can also connect with us in other ways by using your voice as a motivation, by helping us in our advocacy work. Definitely, we have a program called Trial Match that you can engage with if you're interested in learning more about Alzheimer's and dementia trials. We would love for you to volunteer for helping us with our organization. We have community councils that are created. We have fundraising events like the Walk to End Alzheimer's and Longest Day that are available to engage in, the ways to help you stay active physically and socially as well. So you can find more information out about these events and activities at our website at alz.org as well. And I just want to also conclude by letting you know that there are programs in your communities other than the Alzheimer's Association, like the area agencies on aging, senior centers, different community park programs are available. And there are some also other resources online from national sources that you can find to get more details about aging healthily and about support for Alzheimer's disease. So with that, we'll wrap up. And Kyle, if you want to help ask some questions that might be in the chat, I'd be happy to respond to those.
Wonderful. Let me just say thank you so much, Ronnie. Great information, and a significant amount of information. So I'll also just put a plug in for those who are listening to know that you can rewatch this. It'll be available on our website at seniorgames.net. And Ronnie, you mentioned questions. There are a few questions in the chat box. You did a wonderful job of answering a few of them, but let's touch on a couple that we didn't get a chance to answer. One user or listener says, my mother-in-law died of Alzheimer's disease. She had 12 siblings and she's the only one who contracted it. Would this still be considered a family history, and how worried should my husband be?
Yeah, definitely. We know one of the risk factors for Alzheimer's is genetics. And so if your husband had, his mother had the disease, that's a direct connection. If there were additional siblings, that would increase the risk. But anytime there's even one person in your family that has the disease, that increases your risk for that. So should your husband be super worried? I don't know that he should be super worried, but he should definitely take a look. And I would suggest going to the Alzheimer's Association website at alz.org. And there's a section there called Know the 10 Signs. And click on that and review it. You can see what the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are. And that would be a good thing to measure your husband against, I guess, or have him measure himself against to see if there's any need for concern.
Excellent, excellent. Great advice. Once again, this alz.org is a resource that is just vast. So please take advantage of that. Another question that came in, I heard on a program about aging that music is good therapy for people with Alzheimer's. What are your thoughts about that, Ronnie?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Music is a great therapy. While it's not something that will cure the underlying cause of the disease, it is a very effective means for therapy for people who are in the mid to late stages. Without going into too much detail about the anatomy of Alzheimer's disease, it basically begins by destroying your memory cells, and your short-term memory is what's lost first. That's why people often ask questions over and over again. But the parts of the brain that are affected the last with the disease are your long-term memories. So we've seen a lot of great evidence from research that's been shown of people with Alzheimer's, when they're played music that they listen to and related to from their teenage years, they respond. And they almost come back to life, if you will, because it's really reaching deep into those memory areas of those things that they remember from long ago. And so it is a great way to keep people active and involved, and it's definitely a great therapy. I just wish that by listening to music of the 70s for me would help me have my brain health back. It doesn't always work that way.
Okay, wonderful. But still, it could be an important and powerful tool.
For sure.
I have a question for you. I've read a lot of research pretty recently on the connection between hearing and Alzheimer's, and that they're really quite related. What can you tell us quickly?
Absolutely. Hearing loss is another risk for Alzheimer's disease, because of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's disease, which is in the hypothalamus. There is a close connection to your auditory nerves and brain cells in that area. And so we know that because of a hearing loss, that might add a higher risk. It does add a higher risk for people to get Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. So, but you can reverse that by getting hearing aids. So by improving that hearing loss you might have naturally, by augmenting it with a hearing aid, you can reduce some of that risk.
So it might be worth a trip to the hearing doctor just for an annual checkup. Excellent.
Yeah.
We have one more question. Lisa has asked actually several great questions, and you've covered most of them. She has one question that we didn't quite get to that I think is an important one. She says, do these activities, the ones that we've talked about, these 4 areas, do these help retain brain function that are already in Alzheimer's, for those that are already suffering from it, or do they only help in preventing the disease?
Yeah, that's a great question. The bottom line is that Alzheimer's disease destroys brain cells. Once a brain cell is destroyed, we can't get it back. So that's the answer to the question, that these activities will help you retain and maintain the brain cells that are currently living and live. And so, as I talked about, the more neural pathways we can develop by exercising and being cognitively active, that will help create more neural pathways. So as Alzheimer's disease might be there destroying brain cells. The more neural pathways you have, the more cognitively alert you can be. And so while it can't bring back brain cells that are dead, it can help you maybe reduce the risk for getting the disease in the first place, or it might prolong the long-term effect of the, or reduce the risk for long-term effect of the disease, if that makes sense, by doing some of these things we talked about.
Yeah, for sure. So it feels like I think some of us, myself included, were hoping that you would give us this magic wand that we could all just wave and it would solve the problem. It sounds like that unfortunately does not exist, and it really just comes down to simple, basic: eat right, get a little bit of exercise, sleep, stay socially connected. It's just the basics.
Yeah, you know what researchers are telling us now, that most likely an eventual Alzheimer's treatment will look like similar to like when you have a heart disease. You know, when you have heart disease, what does your doctor tell you? He does give you some pharmaceuticals that will help with that, but he says eat a healthy diet, exercise, get enough sleep, right? Don't smoke, don't drink. Those all help to strengthen your cardiovascular health. So your brain health and Alzheimer's, to potentially a cure or even a potential way of preventing it is going to look very similar to that, most likely. It's going to be incorporating all of these kind of lifestyle things that will help us keep our brain healthy.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, we want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing just this vast amount of information. And we wish you the very best as you go forward in this important battle that you're involved in. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to mention, I just put my my email address in the chat. So if any of have other questions that we didn't address today, or if you'd like to learn more about volunteering here in the Utah chapter, or if you'd like me to connect you to my counterpart in a chapter where you live, please email me. I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Once again, we wish you the very best. And let me also say thank you to those who joined us today. We're grateful that you took time out of your day to do so. If you enjoyed today's webinar, please make sure that your friends know about the Living Your Best Life webinar series. Of course, this presentation will be available for rewatching at our website, which is once again seniorgames.net. And be sure to join us next month on Thursday, April 27th, 2021 at 12 noon daylight savings time. Where I am actually going to share with you some of the things that we can all do to really live and enjoy the active life in 8 easy steps. We hope that you'll take just a moment and participate in our 2-question survey, which will pop up on your screen once we log off. And again, until we meet, once again, get out there and live your best life. Thank you so much.